This is an Ellis Mowers and More small engine repair. Stay connected on Instagram and Facebook at Ellis Mowers and More. Comments or questions? Leave them below or email me, ellis@ellismowers.com. Parts used in today's repair are found using the links in the description below. And as always, like and subscribe for more small engine content. On today's repair video, we are going to be looking at this Scott's garden tractor. It's a 25 horsepower, 48-inch Briggs & Stratton, and basically an orange and black version of a John Deere L120, basically. Except it does have a little bit bigger of an engine than an L120. I think the L120's had a 22 or something like that. So a little bit more horsepower. Same cutting deck size. It looks like the paint has held up a little bit better on this machine than the John Deere's, although it does have a little bit of paint flaking issues. The main issue on this, though, is that the engine is blown up. It was ran low on oil and blown to smithereens. It's not got any holes or anything in it. It just let go the connecting rods on the inside. So I got a V-twin. I got to put a sump gasket in, but once I do that, we should be good to go. So hopefully this is going to be a relatively easy engine swap. I got to put some blades on it. I know that. I got some blades here, so I'm going to try and get this thing knocked out today. Hopefully have another good machine here. As always, got to do a little bit of front end work and stuff like that to this. Pretty typical of these John Deere garden tractors. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of this engine swap. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'll show you inside the engine real quick, just to show you what all you need to take off in order to get this off, and we'll go from there. Alright, so I went ahead and cleaned it up just to make it so that I'm not quite as greasy doing this time. Pull the hood off, just have to take those couple springs off right there of the tabs. The engine, nothing. You can hear scraping and stuff inside it. So it's done. Kind of interesting that they put a 25 horsepower on this, which is bigger than what they put on the L120s, which basically this is. I don't know price range if this was more, the same, or what. I don't know the hours on the machine, but overall it's in fairly decent condition. This is the first time I've ever had a Scott's of this generation. I have the LT, like the John Deere LT 160 generation. I've had a couple of them, including one just relatively recently on the channel. Never one of the L series generation of these Scott's. So in order to get all this off, you've got to pull these wires right here for the voltage regulator. Oh, there's the hole in the engine. I lied. So blew it sky high right there. So this is as good as scrap. Good news is the heads will be good. I can save the heads because oftentimes you need heads for these. Valve guides get blown out of them. So you got to take the wires off over there for the voltage regulator, the 6-pin here for the all the other wires. You technically could take just the 6-pin off right here and be okay, because I think those are the only wires going to anything engine related. Fuel pump, we'll pull the fuel line off over there somewhere, and then on the front you've got a throttle and a choke cable you got to take off, and that's pretty much all up top that you got to take off in order to get one of these off. Down below, obviously, we've got to pull the PTO clutch and drive pulley off. Hopefully those will come off smoothly. Considering how nice this mower is for it to be over 20 years old, I think that will be okay. A little bit of tape here for the PTO switch, but as long as that works, I'm not really worried about it. So what I'm going to do, instead of taking the whole deck and everything off, because I'm pretty sure the only thing I need to do is blades on the deck, I'm going to pull this belt off A lot of times I can just pull it and get it off. Disconnect this front mount, put it on my mower jack the whole front of the mower up, but leave the deck on the ground, and that'll allow us to access everything that we need to. I'll go ahead and get the hood off as well, and I'll just go ahead and time lapse y'all, let y'all watch me go to town on taking this Briggs off of here, and then the new one that we're going to put on here has I have to replace the sump gasket on it. So I've got to replace the sump gasket on it before we do anything else. Take care of that, and then we'll keep on rolling. Alright, so just a few bolts, literally. I mean, there's just a couple bolts under there, and then this. It's off. So I'll take, maybe take a vacuum and suck all this stuff up back here. Or do something with it, blow it out. I'll go ahead and wash this basin here. And what I'll do is I'll just show y'all what engine I'm putting on it, and then we'll go from there. Should be a relatively easy swap. Like I said, the only thing I got to do with the other engine is put a new sump gasket on it, because the old sump gasket blew out of it. I had just put a head on it, and so it should run good. Just need to get it in here now. One other thing I've noticed I've got to take care of here, hopefully I can do it with some washers and stuff, is this spindle here is actually loose on the deck. It looks like it's broken the deck in a couple of places. I think I'm just going to see if I can get a couple of bigger washers and just fasten it that way. Hopefully make it so that this works. Deck belt, I do have one right over there actually on that 48-inch deck that I'll swap on here pending that I can get all this taken care of. I think I can take care of all this without actually pulling the deck off of it. Decks aren't too hard to remove, but if you don't have to, then why not? So I'm going to go get this thing washed though next. So the engine is actually sitting in this LA120 here that I'm going to be using. It's right here. Pretty much got everything ready to go for it. Like I said, it does run. I got to put the, I don't know why I've got all the junk off of it still, but I'll probably put the other engine cover and stuff on it anyways, just for continuity. Sump gasket's leaked out all on this, over on that side, so gotta pull this out and take care of all that as well. But I'll get everything washed to get everything prepped to put, actually get y'all an idea of what it's going to look like putting the sump gasket on this next. And once we take care of that, we'll take care of putting it back in. Okay, so we've got the replacement engine here. Sump gasket right here. I've cleaned all the surfaces and everything off like it needs to. This isn't that difficult of a job. A little bit more involved than the Briggs singles because you do have to mess with the governor. You actually have to take the governor off, but we'll get that adjusted again. What you have to do is when you get that on, full throttle on the throttle, and then you turn it to the right the little shaft that's right here. We're going to turn it all the way to the right, and that'll enact the governor again. So I'm going to get this on. Again, I've cleaned it up as good as I could. We'll get it on there. And good thing I actually did pull this, because there was a small piece of intake push rod from where I had to replace this right side cylinder head on it. So we got that. I also, it's a little oily on the bottom, but it is clean on the top because I did power wash this significantly. I do need to put this right side tin on it, shroud, which I'll probably just take off of that mower just to get it, you know. I mean, it's going to get broken down and taken to scrap anyways. So yeah, so we're going to take care of this. I'm going to put the sump back on. You have an oil pump as well. That's just a little rod. That's right here somewhere that you got to put on as well. So let's see. There it is right there. So it's that star piece and then that square piece. You put the shaft in and line everything up, and it goes right on this camshaft right there. So everything's clean. I'm going to pop everything on, torque it down to specs, which I think is like 18 foot-pounds, and we won't have any more gasket leaking anymore. Long as I did this right. It was blown out. Let's see. I think it was blown out over here, if I remember correctly, on the left side of the engine. So, and then the gasket was starting to get brittle anyway. So I'm going to get this gasket on, and then we'll put it back on, or put this engine onto the Scots. Well, we're back on now, and you just tap it down, get the gasket in the guides, gently tap it, tap it, tap it, get it to the bottom, and then thread all your bolts in. I took a small impact, well, a little bit bigger than this, but just got them snug. I'm going to torque it all to 18 foot-pounds here in just a second. But next I'm going to put so this shaft here, so it goes shaft, star piece. There's only one way you can put it as well, so you'll know if you got it right. Square piece, or not square piece, but 4-point piece, and then you put the cap back on. And you have 3 5/16 inch bolts. I know this is a little bit dirty, but I got all the surfaces clean that needed to be cleaned. So that's what that was what my goal was. And so let's see, 3 of these on here. And then the governor arm that I mentioned, I still got to torque them. But the governor arm that I mentioned, you can slide this on. Make sure that your throttle is at full throttle here. And what that'll do is enact the governor that's going to be attached to the throttle cable here. So take some pliers or a wrench, or in my case I just was able to use my hand to turn it to the right all the way, tighten the nut back down, and you should feel tension on the governor. This will get tension once we put the throttle cable back on it. So given all that, y'all saw how I took it off. I want to go ahead and put everything back on it. I'm going to put that tin on the right side there. Maybe go ahead and swap out the oil filter while it's off the machine, because we will have to put brand new oil in it. And I'm going to go ahead and get this thing on there. So give me a little bit of time. I'll get it on here. We'll test it out, make sure it runs good, doesn't have any leaks or anything with it. And hopefully we'll be done here pretty soon. Alright, pardon the light if that is a little bit too much here. get it later in the season. I get the afternoon sun, which is warm, but it's not good for filming. But as you can see, I got the engine on, 4 mounting bolts. The one thing that you need to remember whenever you mount these is that you need to mount the belt keeper on the front. 2 mounts right there. It's nice that it is removable, just in case your pulley actually seizes up. The only thing I'm not certain about here is the what would it be? The governor situation. But I got all this hooked up like it's supposed to with the throttle and whatnot, and so if I hear it running really, really fast, I'll shut it off immediately, because I do not want to blow another V-twin after I've done all this work. Hopefully there's no leaks. I think the oil that we see is just residuals from where it leaked out as I was trying to work on it. This mower, or this engine, should have just had the valves done on it. So we'll have to pump a little bit of gas up here. I hope I got enough juice in this battery. We'll see. And maybe we can find out how many hours are actually on the machine. So let me go grab a key and see here. See if we can get it to kick over. I did fill it with oil, I do know that. Alright, solenoid works. Put the valves, or have I put these back on? Yes. It's going up there. Let me spray it with a little carb spray just to get it to, because it's probably going to smoke like crazy whenever it does kick off here. So, alright, let's see. Do I have the throttle up? I do. Choke is up. So let's see here. I got a ton of oil to burn off of this thing. Probably see it coming off of it. Sounds good. Ain't got a hole in it, so we're winning on that front. More throttle. That's good. That is a good thing. Just checking everything here. Woo. It's gonna smoke like that probably for the first 20-30 minutes that I run it. So hopefully there's no leaks. I'm gonna go ahead and put the PTO clutch back on, put the drive belt back on. The drive belt looked good from what I could tell. Go ahead and put these decorative covers back on. I'm just gonna take them off of the bad engine here, since we do have to take it off of that. And anyways, since we're gonna scrap it, make it look stock, so to speak. And this one's got the aluminum intake, or the metal intake, as opposed to the plastic intake, so that's even good. That's good as well. So I'll take care of all that. The next time I'll rejoin you is with the mower deck to see if we can figure something out with that. So here's what I was talking about with the deck and the spindle. Now let me show you all the old spindle here. This spindle looked like somebody had tried to take it off and broke some stuff, and then drilled some stuff and made it work, but it was still loose. So what I have, amazingly, is another one of these spindles. I didn't think I had one, but I guess I had an old L110 or something that had a bad deck on it at some point that I pulled this off of. Nice and quiet from what I can tell. What I've done, I've got 4 of these bolts. They make reinforcement rings for these as well. Might put one of these on it, but just to try and get it cutting, just because it doesn't really take much to put one on. I'm just going to go ahead and put these bolts in. As long as I get them tight, they should be fine. I got a couple of them here that I got a couple of washers for. That way they are not just kind of hanging around, you know. So I'll get these bolts on here. Hand tighten them first, and then I'll put the impact to them. Not too much torque, just enough. And I'll get the pulley back on the top, just a 15/16 castle nut, and then the blades are just 15 millimeters. Sometimes they're going to be a little hard to get off, so just because of the way they have these bolts, the threads are exposed to the rust and whatnot. So, and then also the deck belt. So the deck belt routing, as you can see, and this will go, let's see, it'll go like this up to the front. So that's the deck belt routing. I've got another deck belt over here we're going to put on. Got to take these 2 pulleys off, get them loose so that I can get the belt around those. And so I'll take care of all that, get this bolted in, get the blades on, the castle nut on, the spindle on, swap out the belt. I'll put everything back together. We'll see if it cuts some grass after that. I do need to put the pulleys and the PTO clutch back on. To get these decks off, it's pretty easy. There's 5 points you got to take off. You take off one on the middle of the mower, same on the other side, and then the third one up front there. There's 2 lift arms that come on the back side of these, 4 and 5 right there, and then it just, you lift up the blades and slide it right out. So good overall. This deck looks like it has been repainted at one point too, so saves me a little effort as well. So I'll get everything on and see if we can cut some grass. Well, end of the day here, and it's all back together, which is good. Obviously I want to test it out. I've still got to do a little bit of front end work because it's a little bit towed out, and every single one of these front ends is bad on these 120s, the ones that have the bigger garden tractor tires. They just don't hold up very well to the use. The left front needs some ATF. We'll take care of that a little bit later. But let's see, make sure she cranks up still, and she tightened up the cup clip. Couple of fuel line clamps. current charge of the battery. One thing you may also see over here is the flywheel shroud. I had to change it from the one that was on it to the one that the engine came off of, because the shroud that was on it was a little bit narrower. And I wanted to keep the one that came on this machine to help it look more original, so to speak. 14.3, which is great. We'll get y'all up here, pull this thing out. As long as this thing drives, cuts, and does what it needs to, we're going to end the day right here. I think it stopped pulling fuel. We'll swap the fuel pump out on it really quickly, because I'm thinking that the because this thing started acting up on me when I had it earlier, before I did the whole engine swapping mess. So I'm thinking that, let me just check. Yeah, I think the fuel pump is going bad in it. Found out here in just a second. It could be the needle in the seat are a little bit swollen. Let me pull the fuel line real quick. Now I did have one that came in earlier this year. I think that was a John Deere V-twin, that the needle and seat actually swole up on it, and it wouldn't let enough come in. Let's just see here. Yeah, it's not pumping like I want it to, so let me swap that fuel pump out and see if it'll pump any better. Okay, so the carburetor, I think I covered this, the carburetor on it was having an issue with the needle. I believe the needle was too is swollen up. I don't think I've got another carb that has that correct needle on it, because I think I robbed it off of another carb one time. I'll double check before I take it off. Either way, I'm going to explain to you how you take these off. It's not too difficult, but there are a couple tricks for you to do. You see I've already taken off of this engine. I'm going to take it off of this engine regardless, because I know this one was in operational condition when it blew a hole through the block, right? So what I usually do is take the whole intake off when I do this. Now, to do that, what I also do in order to free up the linkages and stuff is take off this bolt and this bolt for the little lower bracket for the throttle. And then I'll come up here, disconnect the fuel line and stuff like that. And then I'll take these two screws off and these two screws off. They're sometimes on with thread lockers, so you have to be careful. You have to take off the choke cable, and then generally the anti-backfire switch, and generally this thing will just pull right off. So I'm going to check to see what I've got here for the carburetor, and probably I'm just going to pull this off even though it's got the plastic intake versus the aluminum intake, and just use this because, like I said, it was in working condition when it quit, right? So I know that this carb was working to some degree, hopefully to a good degree, and your linkages may be a little bit different, but generally everything from here up is pretty much the same. Sometimes you have the carburetor, as long as you have the linkages to the carburetor that you're taking off, you'll be fine. So like this one right here doesn't have a spring on it, and then the one that I just took off, which has disappeared on me, did have a little return spring on it for the, I guess, the governor. And sometimes you'll see little nuances like that you may have to adjust with. This carburetor plugs in down here as opposed to the one that came off of it plugged into the side. So hopefully we've got enough. Yeah, we should have enough room in order to get that on there. Let's see, here's that old carburetor. I can show you a couple of differences. So, see, this linkage had a spring in it. Some of the newer ones actually just click in and lock in place, and then this has the solenoid on the side as opposed to the bottom. What happens, this is a Nicky carb as well. What happens a lot of times with these Nicky carbs, I've noticed, this will run for a couple minutes and then die. Reason being is because the needle swells up on them, and you can't get enough gas into it. So I'm just going to pull, since I got a parts engine here, we'll pull that carb off. I'm going to slap it on real quick, and we'll test it out, see if it works. If it does, the only thing that we really have left to do is grease up the front end and the spindles. I do have to work on the front end just a little bit. It is towed out and kind of kicked out a little bit whenever you're going straight, which is very, very typical of these. Well, I put the carburetor on it, put the engine cover back on it, just like I explained to y'all. Really no surprises or anything right there, and everything's good. So let's crank it up. It does surge a tiny bit at idle, but it runs great whenever you give it the throttle. So. Just a little bit, and with these V-twins, you can be sitting here for hours trying to get rid of that. Hop on it here. It's not cutting out anymore, so that carburetor is good. Don't know how many hours are on it because the hour meter doesn't work. doesn't really matter too much because the engine that was originally on it is not anymore. So, but I think I had a guy who was interested in riding more cheaper one, and this is the cheapest one I've got so far. In the because I had the T2400 Craftsman with the plastic transmission on it for $900. I sold that for $800. I thought I was getting it back because the belt slipped off or something, but I ain't heard back from him. So this right here is more realistically like a $700 to $750 mower in the condition that it's in. And also because it's a Scott's and not a John Deere, it's not going to bring green and yellow money, if you know what I mean, even though it's the exact same machine. I did put, I think I mentioned I put a deck belt on it that I had hanging around here. These covers came from a 48-inch L120 deck, along with the belt that I have here for another L120 that I have back there that may or may not ever see the light of day, depending on what it is. So I just said, what the heck, let's put the black covers on the black deck. It'll be fine. This is never going to be a showpiece, so if this guy doesn't buy it, I'll probably let him have it for $650 to save the hassle and make it an easy sale and stuff like that. If he doesn't buy it, I'll give it the shine job and list it for $750. See if I can get it out of here. Leaves are falling significantly now here at the very end of October when I'm filming this video, and so somebody will use it for leaf pickup or just to get that final cut in for the year, and we'll be good. So just a couple of small little things left to button up on it before I've already taken pictures of it. It's ready to go pretty much. I feel confident about selling it because everything was in operational condition before it even came in. The only thing that's typical with all of these John Deeres is the front end has got a decent amount of wear on it. There's really nothing I can do about it. I've sold an L120 about 2 years ago that had a front end that was equally as bad as this, maybe even worse. And they've drove that thing 200 hours and it hasn't gotten any worse. So it's like, you know, so again, I'll do the little detail work if it warrants, but if I can get a quick sale out of this, I gave it a quick pressure wash and hopefully we'll send it on and be good. So yeah, you know, the engine swap turned into a little bit more just maintenance wise and stuff, but nothing crazy at all, and a relatively quick turnaround. It would have been even quicker if I didn't have to put the sump gasket on the engine that I put onto this machine, but it's all ready to rock. And this mower's ready to go. It's nice to see a Scott's version of one of these L120 John Deeres, something I've never worked on, even though it's the exact same, despite it being orange in color, basically, and the hood being a little bit different. So still got some of the same paint issues as the John Deeres do, but again, this thing is not going to bring John Deere money, unfortunately, but it should still bring a decent amount. So to get back what I originally sold a D140 for, I think I knocked off about $350 or something like that off of the price, and he brought it to me. So you know, you're gonna get knocked down like $100 regardless if you sell it outright. So I did that, threw an engine in it, had a chainsaw as well. So let's see, 600. Yeah, I took about $350 off of this, off of the John Deere to get this, and I'll sell it for like $650, $700. So make $300, $400 off of a trade is fine. Didn't like I needed any more machines, but you know, any turnaround that is relatively quick is always a good one. So we're looking at that, and hopefully, you know, this thing will give good service, and I won't have to see it for a while unless it is in for annual service or something like that, right? The rest of the machine's in pretty good shape. Engine runs good. The new sump gasket is on it, so it's not leaking any oil anymore. You know, it ain't the prettiest machine in the world, but it works just fine for what it is. I do appreciate y'all watching this repair video where we took the Scott's machine and made it into a runner again. Good news is there weren't really any surprises aside from general maintenance items like me having to put a carburetor on it from the old engine, which I knew I was going to have to anyways because the other one was acting up before. Putting new blades on it, a new belt, and I had to fix that spindle on the left side. I ended up having to replace that spindle, which I had one in-house. So I really don't have any money in it because the blades are also given to me for a product review. So that's always good. And it's thanks to y'all that I get product reviews like that. That allow me to save a little bit of money on fixing these machines and helping out the bottom line. So I do thank y'all for watching. I really do hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I will catch y'all on the next one.